They say the quiet ones always take the longest to leave, but once they do, they don't come back. Not out of spite, not out of ego, but because when a man truly chooses to avoid drama, when he finally puts himself first, it becomes sacred, untouchable even. I didn't react how I thought most would in this situation when I found out. I didn't flip tables. I didn't cry in front of her. She didn't get to see that part of me. That part was reserved for people who still deserved it. The people I held dear and trusted my emotions with, and it was never her. Why didn't I see it sooner? Your guess is as good as mine. People do the dumbest shit in the moment, and I was no exception to that rule. My name's Darius Williams. I'm 38 years old. And this is how my marriage imploded from the inside out, while everyone thought we were picture perfect. I just watched her, watched how the lies rolled off her tongue like she practiced them, rehearsed them. If I didn't know the truth, I wouldn't have batted an eye how natural it flowed. She weaponized her sadness. She made my patience out to be her prison. How she told me with a straight face that I was lucky to have her, that if I were a better man, I'd understand her needs. And maybe, if I played my cards right, she'd let me stay. I almost laughed at how ridiculous that sounded. She said all that like I was the stranger who should be grateful that she walked through the door I held open for her. Funny thing is, she was the one who came knocking first. I met Mirabella in my early 20s back when I was still working help desk at a small cybersecurity firm in Asheville, North Carolina. I was grabbing lunch at this little Thai spot downtown, hole-in-the-wall kind of place, cash only, no website. I bumped into her at the door. Literally bumped into her. My drink splashed. Her purse flew open, and for a second it felt like a scene from a rom-com. Except she didn't laugh. She looked up at me, completely unfazed, and said, "You owe me pad thai now." I blinked. "Excuse me?" She smirked. "You ruined my lunch? Buy me a new one and I might forgive you." And I did. We ate together at a back table, and by the time we were done, she had my number, my attention, and my curiosity. Mirabella, or just Bella since everyone calls her that, was different. She was bold, unapologetically direct, and moved through the world like it owed her a spotlight. But not in a loud or flashy way. She had that effortless kind of beauty. The kind that rolls out of bed gorgeous already. The one that makes heads turn and having everyone ask, who is she? She practically could have gotten away with murder with that kind of beauty. She told me that night that she could have had any man in that restaurant. But she wanted me. I should have paid more attention to how she said it. It wasn't flirtation. It was ownership. We started dating fast. She met my parents by month 3. By year 2, we were married. She gave birth to our twin girls, Aria and Liana, a year after that. They were my everything. Still are and always will be. Bella worked as a digital marketer, mostly remote gigs for lifestyle brands and low-tier influencers. She made decent money, but she never paid a bill. Not because I asked her not to. She just didn't offer, but that was fine. I assumed the caretaker responsibility. I covered everything. Mortgage, car notes, school tuition, summer vacations. I was well enough in my means to be able to cover that and much more. She used her income for herself and the girls. And that was fine with me. Until I found out she'd been dipping into my private accounts too, transferring money in small amounts, disguising them as groceries or school fees. What she was really doing? Stockpiling, using it on her, extra activities. It didn't happen overnight. That's what people don't get. A marriage doesn't explode like a bomb. It rots like a leaking pipe behind a wall. You don't see the mold at first. You just smell something off. Bella started changing after she landed a new client, a verified influencer, a mid-tier YouTube fitness guy who also pushed lifestyle merch, supplements, and all the alpha male energy you could cram into 90-second reels. I won't mention his name since it's over, and there's no need to add unnecessary drama into our lives. But I will say he had big teeth and an even bigger ego. He had a management team, sponsorship deals, press kits, the works. Bella landed his brand's redesign contract, which was a big deal in her space. She started staying up late editing reels, analyzing engagement rates, picking his brand brain on video calls. I'd walk in at midnight and hear her giggling with him, glass of wine in hand, like they were old friends catching up. I asked once, light-hearted, "Working or flirting?" She laughed. "Jealous much?" I said nothing, but I remember the way she said it, like I was the insecure one, like the idea of her crossing the line was laughable. Weeks passed. She became more private with her phone, started dressing up to work from home, taking phone calls in the garage. Her tone changed, sharper, dismissive. I'd ask if she wanted to go out with the girls and me, and she'd say, "I have deadlines, Darius. Not all of us can just exist in code and get paid." It stung, but I swallowed it. One night I was cleaning up the twins' playroom and found her second phone. Not hidden, just carelessly dropped between couch cushions. That's how I knew she didn't think I'd ever check. When I opened it, it unlocked. No password. And the first notification that lit up said, "That thing you wore today? Damn." I couldn't think straight the whole meeting. I stared at it, heart still, head loud. I didn't open the message, not yet. Overthinking was an understatement. It was a vague message, but I knew what was being implied if they were talking like that on a secret phone. I set the phone down, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. I sat on the porch at my parents' house that night. Didn't call ahead, just showed up. My dad opened the door and didn't need to ask a single question. He stepped aside and gave me that look he only gave when he knew something serious was coming. My mom was in the kitchen, wiping down a counter that didn't need cleaning. She looked up, eyes narrowing just slightly. "Sweetie?" I sat at the table, let the silence hang for a second, then said, "Something's not right with Bella." That got her attention. She set the rag down, folded it carefully, and turned to face me. My dad poured himself a drink. Didn't offer one yet, just watched me. I told them about the phone, the late-night calls, the changes in her, how quick her fuse was lately, how different her affection had become. I didn't bring up the name on the message, not yet. My mom exhaled slowly. "How long you been feeling this?" "Couple months," I said, "but it clicked today." My dad took a seat, hands clasped. "What did the message say?" I shook my head. Enough to know it wasn't a work text, but not enough to make a move yet. He nodded once. "So what now?" "I need more," I said. "If I confront her now, she'll lie. She's too good at it. I need to be sure, so sure she can't twist it into something else. I'm not jumping to conclusions. I'm not blowing up our family on a hunch." My mom frowned. "You think she'd really do that? Cheat?" "I don't know what to think yet," I said. "But I'm done second-guessing my gut." There was a quiet pause. No dramatics. Just tension hanging between the ceiling fan hum and the weight of their worry. "You want us to say something?" my mom asked. "To her?" "No," I said quickly. "Not yet. If this turns out to be what I think it is, I'll handle it. But I need time, space to figure out what's real." My dad finally poured me a drink then, set it in front of me without a word. Then he said, "Keep your head straight. Don't let pride do the talking. Let facts do the work." I nodded. "That's the plan." My mom walked over, kissed the top of my head like I was still 10 years old, and whispered, "Just don't lose yourself trying to protect what's already gone." I didn't say anything after that, but I knew one thing as I walked out of that house that night. Whatever this was turning into, I wasn't going to be blindsided again. I'm a systems engineer. Security is my specialty. I don't just fix broken code. I design the walls that keep people out. Firewalls, penetration tests, digital architecture that's built to detect weaknesses, to watch quietly for patterns most people miss. It's not glamorous, but it's precise. And that precision changes you. You stop assuming the best in people, not because you're cynical, just because you've seen too many blind spots exploited by the people closest to the system. Not all breaches are brute force. Most of them are trust. Quiet little permissions left open too long. Bella always said I was too logical, too methodical. She meant it as a dig, like I couldn't feel things the way she did. Like being measured somehow made me cold. But the truth is, I felt everything. I just didn't perform it. And when something didn't sit right in my gut, I didn't scream. I observed, I analyzed, and eventually, I confirmed. That's what this became. Not an outburst, not a confrontation, just another breach to trace and contain. At first, I didn't go digging, I just watched, quietly. Bella was always good at deflecting. She'd joke her way out of questions, make you feel stupid for even asking. Why'd you come home so late? You know how these clients are Zoom call hell. Did you get that deposit from that last brand yet? Ugh, they're dragging. It's so annoying. Nothing sounded off, but everything felt off. She stopped bringing her laptop downstairs, started locking her phone more, started taking walks after dinner just to clear her head. Even the music changed. Gone were the mellow playlists she used to love while cooking. Now it was seductive, aggressive, like the kind of soundtrack you'd post with a thirst trap video. I made sure she didn't play that around the twins. I noticed the tone before the content. It wasn't paranoia. It was pattern recognition. The tipping point? One night, while she was asleep, her phone buzzed. I didn't touch it, just glanced. Notification preview said, "Your file has been uploaded, mirab.pdf." She stirred, rolled over, clutched the phone and tucked it under the pillow like it was some newborn. No explanation, no questions allowed. I kissed her forehead, but I didn't sleep. The next day, I booted into a recovery instance on my home server. I'd set up a network mirror a while back for security, mostly for the girls' devices. Never thought I'd use it on my own wife. I didn't access anything yet, just checked timestamps, upload logs, IP addresses, sync triggers. There it was again. mirab.pdf, same title. Synced from her laptop to a temporary folder, but it didn't route to her usual cloud. Odd. I waited. 2 days later, I asked about it casually while we made lunch. "You still doing campaigns with that skincare brand?" She didn't look up. "Which one?" "The one with the PDF name. Mirab?" She flinched, just slightly. "Oh, that's just something for me. A personal file." "Personal file for work?" She smiled without warmth. "Why are you suddenly interested in skincare, babe?" That's when I knew, not what exactly, but that something wasn't right. I didn't confront her. I didn't touch her devices. I built a sandbox environment, ghosted into her backups, let the traffic run live into an isolated log, and I waited. Within a few days, I started getting bits and pieces of the evidence I needed. Not a full picture, just glimpses, shadows, a message left unsent, but cached in her browser memory. "You make me feel real again. I don't have to pretend with you." A photo fragment in her system's temp folder, cropped tight on a hotel lobby mirror. She wasn't alone in the reflection. An audio file, only 5 seconds long. Her voice whispering, "I wish this was every night." No name, no response, but the tone said enough. Then came the calendar changes, meetings that weren't meetings, client calls that lasted far longer than any real project ever needed. Campaign weekends that conveniently lined up with last-minute travel confirmations from her inbox, ones she deleted within seconds of booking. The final push was a credit card ping from a boutique hotel in Raleigh. I hadn't known she was traveling that weekend. She told the girls she had a migraine and needed to rest. Stayed locked in the guest room for 2 nights, door closed, curtains drawn. That was the night I checked her AirTag history, one she used to keep track of the girls' backpacks. It had been in Raleigh, moved between the hotel, a luxury gym, and a sushi spot we'd once gone to for our anniversary. Her body was here, her tracker was there, and the file name popped up again. mirab.pdf, same pattern. But this time, it linked to a shared Google Drive folder titled AV. I couldn't get inside, locked tight behind 2-factor authentication she'd set up with a burner Gmail. But it didn't matter. I'll get in when I need to. I'd seen enough to know there was someone else. I didn't know everything yet. Not the timeline, not the frequency, not even who he really was. Just that he existed. That she had given him parts of herself I hadn't seen in months. I sat with that for a while. Didn't confront her. Didn't change how I moved. She kissed my cheek the next morning, smiling like we were fine. And I smiled back. Because now I was certain. I wasn't going to expose her yet. I was going to build my case quietly, completely. Then walk away without ever raising my voice. I've always been a nonchalant kind of guy. The one who doesn't flinch when things break, who doesn't panic when the fire starts. People used to take that as weakness, like I was too calm to care, which they weren't completely wrong. But the truth is, I mostly don't believe in performing pain, especially for people who caused it. When I get quiet, it's never because I don't feel it. It's because I'm deciding exactly how far I'm willing to go. And with Bella, I'd already made up my mind. No yelling, no begging, no chaos. She wouldn't get to see me fall apart. She'd only get to watch me walk away with everything she thought I'd never leave behind. It took me 5 days to work up going to see Stella. Not 5 days to decide. 5 days to admit I couldn't carry it alone anymore. I went through the motions like I always did. Controlled, level-headed. During that time, I was working, eating, just existing. I would smile when I had to, laugh to make others feel more comfortable, but it was starting to catch up. Something inside was slipping. I didn't text, didn't call, I just drove. It was late, around 9:30. Her porch light was still on, soft against the brick. The house was the same one her parents used to own, the one she inherited after they moved to Arizona. Her car was parked out front like always, tucked close to the curb. Familiar, comforting. I stood there for a few seconds before knocking. When the door opened, she looked at me like she already knew something was wrong. Her hair was up, sleeves pushed to her elbows, one hand still holding a kitchen towel. "Darius?" she said, voice soft. "You okay?" I didn't answer right away. She stepped aside, held the door open. "Come in." I walked past her, into the same living room I'd spent half my childhood in. The old couch was still there. So was the faded rug we spilled juice on in 6th grade. Everything was familiar, like time had hit pause in this one safe corner of the world. She followed me in and sat beside me on the couch. "You want to talk?" she asked. "I don't know," I said. She nodded, patient. We sat there for a minute, then I asked, "How've you been?" She smiled, a little cautious. "I'm okay. Busy. Work's been crazy lately. You?" I hesitated, staring at the carpet. "You remember that restaurant we used to bike past after school? The one by the lake?" "Yeah," she said slowly. "Can we go there?" She didn't ask why. Just grabbed a hoodie, locked up the house, and got in the car. It was quiet on the drive. The kind of silence that didn't demand to be filled. She didn't reach for the radio. Didn't try to force small talk. When we got there, we just started walking down the trail to the lakeside bench we used to sit on as kids. The air smelled like wet leaves and night-blooming jasmine. The moon shimmered off the water like a quiet promise. We sat down and it felt like the world stopped for a second. She glanced at me, then back to the lake. "You good?" I gave the same lie I'd given everyone else all week. "Yeah." She didn't believe it. But she didn't press, just let the silence stretch a little longer. Finally, I spoke. I think Bella's been cheating with one of her clients, and maybe more. She went still. I told her everything. The texts, the strange behavior, the money, the way Bella still slept beside me like nothing was wrong. Word for word. I didn't censor a thing. I didn't have to with her, which I always liked. She didn't interrupt, didn't gasp or offer cliches. She just took my hand gently and said, "You don't have to carry this like it's your fault." And that broke me. The tears came without warning. Slow, quiet. Not the kind that wrenched from your gut. The kind that just spilled, like I was holding it in forever. I leaned into her shoulder like a damn dam had cracked, and I couldn't plug the holes fast enough. She wrapped her arms around me, held me close like she'd done 100 times before, but this time was different. This wasn't just a bad day or a rough patch. This was heartbreak. This was betrayal. This was the man who never flinched. Breaking. I hadn't cried like that since I was 12 and lost my dog. Not at funerals. Not when friends moved away. But with Stella, I let it go. Because she didn't ask for the pain, but she made room for it anyway. She didn't rush me, she just held me there, breathing with me. She rubbed slow circles into my back and whispered, "I got you," more than once. I didn't know how long I stayed like that, but I remember the feeling, like I was finally allowed to stop pretending I was okay. And when I finally sat up, wiped my face with the edge of my sleeve, she still had my hand. "Sorry," I murmured. "Don't be," she said softly. "Not with me. Never with me. I didn't think it'd hit me like this. That's because you were too busy holding everything together to let it." I nodded. "Thank you." "Always," she said. There was a pause after that. Still. Heavy, but warm. Then she looked at me. Really looked. And I saw it. The ache behind her eyes. The worry. The something more she'd always buried. And before either of us could think better of it, she kissed me. Slow at first. Just a press of lips that said I'm here. But then I kissed her back. And it deepened. Just for a moment. It wasn't lust. It wasn't confusion. It was all the history between us finally exhaling at once. But we both pulled back just as fast. Stella stood up and took a step away, covering her mouth, her face flushing. "Oh, God, Darius, I didn't plan to..." Her voice cracked. I've loved you since we were kids. Since before you even looked at girls that way. And when you met Bella, I backed off. You looked happy. I wanted that for you. Even if it meant it wasn't with me." She wiped at her eyes, but the tears kept coming. "And now, after all this, you're vulnerable and hurting, and I feel like I just took advantage of that, and I hate myself for it. I hate that I did that to you." I stepped forward, hugged her, then took her hands in mine, gently wiped the tears from her cheeks with my thumbs. "You didn't hurt me," I said. "You've never hurt me." She blinked. "But I crossed a line." "No," I said. "You were honest. You were brave." She let out a shaky breath. "I didn't know you felt that way," I added. "I didn't want you to," she whispered. "Not then. Not like this." I nodded slowly. "Maybe one day when all of this is behind me, we can talk more about this. Really talk." She gave the faintest smile. "You mean when Bella's out of the picture?" I nodded again. "Exactly that." She looked down at our hands still holding and didn't let go, and neither did I. I stayed with Stella a little longer, then took her home. I made my drive back home in silence. My face was calm by the time I walked through the door, but something had shifted. Not just in how I felt about Bella, in how I saw myself. The next few days, I kept to my routines: work, dinner with the girls, polite smiles when Bella passed me in the hallway. I played along like everything was fine. But inside, I was sharpening, quietly, deliberately. And then came the part I'd been putting off: telling Lucas. We met up that weekend, just the two of us. Grill night at his place, couple beers, a basketball game playing low in the background. Lucas is 2 years older than me, married, works in real estate, always been more blunt, more fiery, and outspoken. He used to call Bella Queen Bee, not out of admiration, but because he always said she carried herself like royalty without the crown. "She high maintenance as hell," he told me back then, "but you seem happy, so I'll shut up." Now, he didn't have to hold back. I sat across from him, ribs half-eaten on my plate, and said it straight. "She's been cheating." He blinked. "Say that again?" "One that I know of for sure. This high-profile married influencer she's been sneaking around with. I've got strong suspicions about a few others, but nothing confirmed yet. And she's been taking money out of our accounts on the side." Lucas went still, real still. Then he leaned back and let out a slow breath through his nose. "Jesus fuck." "She's been acting like nothing's wrong," I said. "Still kissing me goodnight, still laughing at dinner. Meanwhile, I'm sitting on proof that she's been texting another man, a married man." Lucas's face darkened. "And she doesn't know you know?" I shook my head. "Not yet. I'm playing it smart, quiet, watching how deep this goes." He stood up, paced the living room with his hands on his hips. "Jesus, man! I can't believe it. Not because she cheated, but because she's still pretending like we're fine." Lucas ran a hand down his face, sighing. "Nah, that's worse. That means she's done it so long, it doesn't even feel like betrayal to her anymore." I didn't respond. I didn't have to. He sat back down, looked at me hard. "You sure about this? About not saying anything yet?" I nodded. "Yeah, I need more. If this turns into a custody fight, if she tries to flip the story, I want everything airtight." Lucas leaned forward. "Good. Then keep playing it cool. Collect, watch. But don't lose yourself in this." "I won't." He cracked open a beer, handed it to me. "Whatever happens, you're not alone." I took it. We sat there for a moment in quiet understanding. This wasn't just brotherly advice, and this was war prep. A few days after that talk with Lucas, things at home felt quieter, but not in a peaceful way. After we had dinner and tucked the girls into bed, she went to do the dishes. I, as wiping down the counter's kitchen, was just silent. No small talk. Nothing. The air felt heavier than usual, like the calm before a storm, but not one you can see, just feel. When she was about half done, she dried her hands, leaned against the counter. She didn't look at me when she spoke. "I've been thinking," she said, too casually. I dried my hands on a towel and leaned against the counter. "About?" She hesitated, then shrugged, as if the next words weren't about to shatter everything. "I want to try something new, something that might help me emotionally." I said nothing. She kept going. "An open relationship. Just for now, just for me. Nothing permanent, just space." I raised an eyebrow, still calm. "Just for you?" She finally looked up. "Yeah, I mean, it's not like it'd be fair the other way around. You..." She laughed once, like she already had the joke loaded. "You wouldn't really have options even if I said yes." My jaw tensed, but I stayed still. "You're saying," I said carefully, "you want permission to sleep with other men, while staying married, while living in this house, while still expecting me to be faithful?" She nodded. "I need to feel desired again. Seen. It's just a phase. I still love you." I tilted my head. "If you love me?" Why isn't that enough? She rolled her eyes. It's not about love. It's about experience. About healing parts of myself that I lost being a wife and a mother. And what am I supposed to do? I asked. Watch you heal in someone else's bed? You'd still have me, she said, like it was a gift. Eventually, once I'm in a better place. I stared at her. You expect me to sit here, raise our girls, keep paying every bill, while you go explore whatever fantasy you've built in your head? She didn't answer. You want honesty? I asked. She blinked. Yeah. Then hear this. The second you step into another man's bed, we're done. No anger, no fight. But whatever we had, it ends. She crossed her arms. I thought you'd understand. No, I said, voice steady. You thought I'd comply. We stood there for a long beat. Her eyes were darting, looking for control, an angle, anything to twist. But I'd already seen the truth. I'm not going to stop you, I added, walking past her. You're a grown woman. Do what you want. She turned, her voice a little sharper now. So that's it? You're just done? I paused in the doorway. I didn't end this. You did the second you started looking elsewhere. I'm just the one willing to say it out loud. I went upstairs to check on the girls one last time, kissing their foreheads as they pretended to sleep. Something in the way they breathed, too steady, too quiet, told me they'd heard more than I wanted them to. And just like that, something between us officially died to me. The days that followed blurred together, silent mornings, quiet meals, her avoiding eye contact like nothing had happened, and me pretending like everything was fine in front of the girls. Bella didn't change overnight. That's what made it worse. She still kissed the girls good morning. Still left half a cup of coffee in the sink. Still hummed songs while she folded laundry like the world wasn't off its axis. But something had shifted. Her texts came in late now, short, dismissive. She stopped using terms like babe or love, words that used to feel automatic. She started sleeping in later, taking longer showers. Her phone was never more than inches away from her hand, even in the kitchen. I knew she was hiding more. I just didn't know how much. So I stopped watching her, and I started watching the details. At night, once everyone was asleep, I'd slide out of bed, slip into my office, and go to work. My work laptop was partitioned with a secure drive, one I'd built specifically for situations that required discretion. I wasn't hacking her. I didn't need to. Bella had already left the door cracked open. She used the same passwords she had for years. Her backups were linked to a cloud I used to maintain for the house. Her location history synced to a family calendar. Sloppy mistakes made by someone too confident that I wasn't looking. But I was looking now. Emails, audio notes, message threads that dated back to her first flirtation with A. They'd met during a sponsorship deal, one I'd helped her draft the pitch for, ironically. He was charming, wealthy, married, told her his wife was cold, that they were separated in everything but name. I'd read those lies 1,000 times in other cheaters' messages I'd helped clients catch. Bella believed them like gospel. They'd been talking for nearly a year. Pictures, voice notes, gifts I never saw arrive because she rerouted the deliveries to her friend's house. One of the same girls' night friends I'd met twice and never trusted. But what shattered me? The way she spoke about me. He's a good dad. Just not enough anymore. I feel dead in that house. I want to feel desired again. Before I got off the PC from reading those messages, I came across the mirab.pdf file again. And this time, I'm going to access this file by any means. Last time I did some basic things to get into it, but now I'm really going to attempt to crack it. Something about the name made it feel deliberate, personal, like she wanted it hidden in plain sight, but just obscure enough that I might overlook it. The password was something finally different from her normal passwords, but it wasn't too hard to crack. Inside, a collage of curated moments, digital fingerprints of a double life. The first few pages were selfies, some tasteful, some not. All of them sent to different names, different handles. A, mostly, but others too. Some were dated months, even years, apart. She'd labeled folders inside the PDF, titled like some kind of marketing deck. For A, client conquests, deleted memories, keep. Each one was worse than the last. There were videos, clips of her in lingerie, whispers into the camera about how she loved being told what to do and how she wished she could sneak away forever. In one of them, she was in our bedroom, our bed, wearing a set of lingerie I had bought her for our anniversary. She was laughing, not nervously, genuinely, and I could hear her say, "He has no idea I'm making this for you while he's downstairs watching TV." There were snapshots of receipts, hotel stays, lingerie purchases, even Uber rides, documented like expenses. She made notes beside each one. "Met A here. Finally, God, worth it." Luis couldn't stop talking about my mouth. LOL. Photog asked me to model again. Might take him up on it. She had screenshots of voice memos she'd deleted. Him telling her he missed her body. Her replying that she couldn't stop thinking about his hands. And the worst? There was a full-on diary entry, typed, dated, detailed. It read, "Sometimes I wonder if I married Darius because I loved him, or because he was the safest bet. I knew he'd never hurt me, never cheat, never leave. But love, real love, I think I'm just now starting to understand what that actually feels like." She ended it with a line that split me clean down the middle. "I don't feel guilty. I feel alive." I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. My hands weren't shaking, not yet, but my stomach turned like it was trying to empty itself from the inside out. She had documented everything, not to remember it, but to relive it. And she was planning to keep reliving it, right under my roof. I shut the laptop, and for a full minute I just sat there, heart beating so slow it almost stopped. Half because she'd said those things, but also because I believed her once. That I was her person. That all our years, our inside jokes, our Friday pizza nights on the couch with the girls, that those moments meant something. To me, they were everything. To her, they must have been just placeholders. The next morning, she was overly cheerful. Too cheerful. "Want eggs or oatmeal?" she asked, flipping through the fridge like we weren't collapsing. I didn't answer. She came over, leaned on the counter, and gave me that look, the one she used to flash when she wanted me to cave. "Babe, can we talk later?" "About?" She leaned closer. "About us. About what we need. I think we could make this work." I raised an eyebrow. "Make what work?" She exhaled like I was the difficult one. "I just think I should have the freedom to figure out what makes me happy." "But I don't get that same freedom?" I asked. "That's not what I said." "No," I cut her off. "You didn't have to." She stared at me for a beat. Then her voice changed, sharper now. "You're being dramatic." I nodded. "Right. So it's dramatic to want a faithful wife?" Her eyes rolled. "You act like I'm screwing half the world." I didn't answer, because she wasn't far off to me. She started going out more. At first, she gave excuses, networking dinners, content strategy meetups, client shoots that ran longer than expected. But eventually the excuses disappeared altogether. She didn't feel the need to lie anymore. That was the part that hit different. She just grabbed her purse, fixed her hair in the hallway mirror, and left. Sometimes without even saying goodbye. Her outfits shifted too. More heels, more designer, more curated for attention. And every time that door closed behind her, the silence in the house grew louder. The girls noticed. They didn't say much at first, but I could see it in the way they hesitated when asking, Is Mommy coming home tonight? Or the way Arya kept glancing toward the driveway when it got dark. Liana stopped setting an extra plate for dinner. One night, after tucking them in, Bella was getting ready in the bathroom. Tight dress, lashes done. I leaned against the door frame, watching her apply lip liner like she hadn't shattered our life one file at a time. "Where are you going?" I asked. She smirked in the mirror. "Out." That's not an answer. She turned to face me, still calm. "Do I need your permission now?" "No," I said, "but respect would have been nice." She rolled her eyes. "Don't guilt-trip me. This is who I am now. I'm not going to shrink just because you're uncomfortable." I nodded slowly, biting the inside of my cheek. "And the girls? They comfortable watching their mother vanish 5 nights a week?" That got her. For half a second, her face twitched. Then the walls came back up. "They're fine. They've got you, don't they?" She left before I could respond, heels clicking down the stairs like a clock counting down to something I didn't want to see. I didn't chase, just stood there brushing my teeth with shaking hands, wondering when the woman I married became a stranger with my last name. And yet somehow, she still acted like I was the problem. She'd come back late, reeking of perfume and whiskey, acting like we were just in a rough patch. She'd toss her heels by the door, sigh dramatically, and say things like, "You're so cold lately. Why do you look at me like I'm the enemy?" This is exactly why I needed space. You don't see me anymore. Gaslighting at its finest. My silence didn't morph into guilt. She went into the bathroom and came back still intoxicated and in her sexy silk robe I bought for her years ago. She didn't say anything at first, just leaned against the doorway, watching me. Then slowly, she walked over and straddled the arm of the couch beside me, her fingers trailing along my shoulder. "You never look at me anymore," she said softly. I kept scrolling. "You used to," she added, voice low, sultry. "You used to touch me like I was the only thing in the world." I didn't bite. She leaned closer, her lips brushing the edge of my jaw. "You don't miss me?" she asked, breath warm against my skin. I turned my head, met her eyes. Calm, controlled, unshaken. "Go to bed, Bella." That was all I said. She froze, only for a second. But I saw it. The flicker of insult, the sting of rejection. Then came the scoff, the huff, the sharp pivot back to rage. "You're unbelievable," she muttered, storming off. "You act like I'm disgusting or something." Number not disgusting. Just no longer mine. I replied back. She acted like I wasn't present, like I wasn't the one making dinner, folding laundry, tucking in our daughters, and keeping the lights on while she played dress-up in someone else's world. She'd flip between seductive and spiteful with no warning. She tried multiple times to initiate intimacy, but I rejected it every time. I don't want something that is no longer exclusively for me. At that point, I moved into my home office, where I had a very comfortable futon I spent an unnecessary amount on but never regretted. When she was out, I quietly moved my clothes and essentials over. It had its own bathroom, its own door, and, most importantly, distance. A soft, deliberate exit without making a scene. She noticed, but she didn't ask, at first. Later that night, standing in the doorway of my office, arms crossed, she finally said, "So that's it? You're just moving out of our room like I'm some stranger?" I didn't look up from my laptop. "I didn't think you'd notice. You've been sleeping somewhere else for a while now, just not in this house." She scoffed. "Real mature. You're the one causing distance now. No wonder this isn't working." No apology, no reflection, just projection. She made my boundary the issue. Like reclaiming peace was an attack on her. And when she finally gave up trying to guilt me back into that room, she still used words like we. We just need time. We're figuring it out. We both made mistakes. But mistakes have weight, and hers weren't slips. They were patterns. Patterns I couldn't unsee anymore. So, I started preparing for the next step. The conversations no man wants to have, but every man in my position eventually must. Starting with the people who taught me what love is supposed to look like. I called my parents and Bella's parents so they could come over. Bella wasn't home. She said she went out to brunch. My father walked in first, nodding like he already knew. My mother hugged me and held on longer than usual. "You have more evidence?" she asked gently. "Enough to convict?" I said. Then the doorbell rang again. It was Bella's parents. Her father walked in, stiff, shoulders tight. Her mother followed with a Tupperware of something sweet and a nervous smile, tight, unsure. Neither of them knew what they were walking into, just that it was serious. We all sat down at the kitchen table. 4 parents, 1 son, no Bella. No one spoke right away. Finally, I said, "I'm going to divorce Bella." Her mother blinked. Her father shifted in his seat. My mom stayed quiet, eyes on them. My dad leaned back, arms crossed, waiting. "I didn't ask you here to debate it," I added. "I asked you here so you'd see why." I slid a folder onto the table, printed summaries, screenshots, logs, nothing exaggerated. Just the truth, lined up in black and white. "This is what Bella's been doing." Silence thickened like smoke. My mother reached for the pages first. Her face tightened with each flip. My dad didn't speak, but the muscle in his jaw clenched. Bella's father leaned in slowly, took a few pages, read, then closed the folder. "I always liked you," he said, his voice low. "I wondered sometimes if she didn't deserve you. Guess I know now." Her mother opened her mouth to defend her, but the proof shut it for her. "She told us you'd pulled away," she said weakly. "That you were distant, that she felt neglected." "I never stopped loving her," I said. "She just stopped respecting me." Nobody argued. Nobody defended her. My mom finally spoke. "This isn't just about your marriage anymore. This is about your daughters." "I know." "What are you going to do?" she asked. "First, I need to meet with a lawyer, but I also need some more clarity. I've been talking to Stella. It's helped." My father leaned forward. "Don't wait too long, son. The longer you stay quiet, the more she spins the story. She'll make you the villain." "I've thought about that." "Then act like it," he said. "You've always been calm. But calm can't mean passive right now." I nodded. "It doesn't. Not anymore." That's when the front door opened. Bella walked in, keys jangling, sunglasses still on, shopping bags in hand. She froze at the sight of us, the 4 people who now knew everything. "What the hell is going on?" Her mother gave her a long look. "We'll talk later." Then they all left. It was just Bella and I now, and I went straight upstairs saying nothing. She stayed behind for a beat, silent, then noticed the folder still sitting on the table. She rushed over, flipped it open, and within seconds I heard her footsteps pounding up the stairs. "Are you kidding me right now?" she shouted, bursting into the hallway. I kept walking. "You went through my stuff? My accounts? My private messages?" Still, I said nothing. "And you told them? Our parents? Without even telling me first?" She was hysterical now, equal parts rage and panic. "You had no right. This is my life too. You were spying on me like a damn criminal. What is wrong with you?" I turned to her briefly at the top of the stairs. "You made your choices, Bella. All I did was show them." Then I closed my office door behind me. Her fists hit the wood once, twice. Then I heard her angry steps fade off to the distance. Lucas met me at a bar the next night. "No punches?" he asked as we hugged. "Not yet," I said. He smirked. "Man, after everything she pulled, you got restraint I'll never understand." We ordered drinks. I walked him through everything, laying it all out from the confrontation with our parents to Bella storming up the stairs, accusing me of betrayal while she stood in the wreckage of her own making. Lucas listened quietly. No jokes this time. Just that rare stillness that only shows up when things hit too close to home. "She really tried to flip it on you?" he asked finally. I nodded. Told me I had no right to expose her, that I violated her privacy. He exhaled sharply. "She torches your life and then plays victim because you caught the fire on camera. I'm getting legal counsel this week. You better. You've got receipts. Stack 'em tall and use 'em well." He leaned in, voice lower now. "But listen, don't just aim to leave her. Plan the exit like you're mapping a mission. Think 5 steps ahead, not just for you, for the girls." I nodded. Already started. Lucas clinked his glass against mine. "Then you're halfway there." Later that week, I stopped by Stella's place again. She was out front watering her plants barefoot, wearing that old college hoodie she stole from me years ago. When she saw me, she didn't ask questions. Just walked inside and came back out with 2 cups of coffee. She handed me a cup and sat beside me on the porch swing. "You okay?" she asked gently. I shrugged. "Better than last week?" We didn't rush into anything deep. She knew how to let silence do the talking. Eventually, I told her how Bella reacted after the confrontation. How she spun the story, how she made it about me being cruel, controlling. "She weaponized every soft spot I ever gave her," I said. "Used my patience like a shield and my silence like an alibi." Stella didn't flinch. She didn't curse or rant. She just reached out and took my hand. "I'm proud of you," she said, "for not letting her rewrite the truth." I nodded. I won't let her break them either. We sat for a long time. Then I turned to her. "You ever think about how things would have gone if I had seen you that way sooner?" Her eyes flicked to mine, a smile, sad but sure. "Every day." We didn't kiss again, but her hand stayed in mine. And that was enough, for now. A few days later, after another one of Bella's late-night networking escapades, I knew it was time. The girls were in the living room finishing homework when I called them over. They sat on either side of me, Aria on the left, Liana on the right, just like always. "I need to talk to you both," I said, steady but soft. They looked up right away, like they could already sense the shift in the air. "Mommy and I are no longer going to be with each other," I said. "This isn't because of anything you did. You two are the best thing that's ever happened to me, to us. That will never change." Aria looked down. Liana blinked hard, trying not to cry. They have always been quiet but observant. Aria was more vocal than Liana. "I don't know all the details yet," I continued. "But if it ever comes to where you need to choose who to live with, would you be okay telling me?" Aria was the first to speak. "Dad, we'd go with you." Liana nodded without hesitation. I didn't break in front of them, but I held them tighter than I ever had. And in that moment, I felt relief and a weight fall off my shoulders. 2 weeks passed before I finally scheduled the meeting with a divorce attorney. It started with a quiet office tucked on the 3rd floor of a law firm that didn't advertise on billboards or buses. My lawyer's name was Elijah Grant, mid-40s, sharp suit, no small talk. He glanced over the stack of documents I brought, printed screenshots, account summaries, camera logs, and copies of the most damning evidence I'd recovered over the past month. When he finished reviewing, he folded his hands. "Well," he said, calm and clinical, "you've got enough to file with strength." I nodded once. "That's the goal." We went over everything. Grounds for divorce. North Carolina didn't need fault, but the evidence could support my side heavily in asset division and custody. Custody? I told him I wanted the girls with me. Stability, safety. I had school records, testimony from their therapist, and teacher input ready to go. Finances? Bella had dipped into my personal savings and diverted household funds. That made this not just emotional, it made it provable, traceable, tangible. Elijah, I said finally, I'm not trying to bury her. I just want my daughters and as little drama as possible. He nodded. Then we'll proceed accordingly. Quiet, strategic, no courtroom explosions. But we play the long game. We discussed next steps, preparing the filing, requesting a temporary custody order, and sending a notice to Bella through formal service. What about the house? I asked. If you plan to leave, we'll make that part of the agreement, he said. Just don't leave before we file. It could make it look like abandonment. But once we're in motion, you can plan accordingly. I'm already looking, I told him. His brow lifted. Good. Just make sure it's close enough to keep your case tight. It will be. Same school district, same routines. He leaned back, satisfied. You're not walking in wounded, Darius. You're walking in with leverage. Let's use it. I stood, shook his hand, and exhaled. It was finally happening. It happened on a Wednesday. Bella had just come back from what she claimed was a brand strategy meeting. She walked through the door like she still owned every room she entered, sunglasses still on, her phone glued to her hand. Then the knock came. She answered it. And just like that, the mask cracked. The process server handed her the envelope. Mrs. Williams? Yes, she replied as she looked at the envelope. You have been served. Then he walked away without another word. She looked at the seal, then back at him as he walked away. She couldn't believe this was actually happening. Is this a joke? She asked, turning to me. I stayed seated at the kitchen table, calm, unmoving. No, I said. It's real. Her face twisted. So you're just going to throw everything away like this? I stood up, slow and steady. No, Bella. You did that. This is me finally cleaning up the mess. She looked down at the papers, then back at me. Her voice cracked, equal parts rage and disbelief. You blindsided me with this? No, I said. I just stopped warning you. Her lip trembled. The bravado in her eyes faltered, then disappeared altogether. She looked down at the envelope again, as if somehow the words would rearrange themselves into something less final. No, Darius, you don't have to do this, she said, her voice cracking. We can fix it. Tears started falling, real ones. She backed against the wall like the weight of her own choices had just caught up with her. You're throwing away everything we built, she sobbed, over one mistake. It wasn't one, I said calmly, and you know that. She slid down to the floor, covering her face, shaking. I never thought you'd actually leave, she whispered. I knelt for a moment, not out of pity, but to look her in the eye one last time. You gambled our marriage thinking I'd never fold, I said. You never realized I stopped playing your game a long time ago. She didn't respond, just cried harder. I stood, picked up my keys from the counter, and headed for the door. You're gonna regret this, she called out, broken and desperate. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. I already regret trusting you. Then I walked out. 3 weeks later, we were in court. The courthouse didn't feel like justice. It felt like paperwork, like cold hallways, neutral tones, and strangers debating what used to be your life. Bella didn't look at me when we arrived. She wore sunglasses indoors like she was hiding from a flash that never came. Her lawyer came in smiling. Mine didn't. He was all business, sharp, measured, unbothered by theatrics, just how I needed him to be. We filed divorce, irreconcilable differences. Bella. She made it harder than it had to be. She claimed she deserved more, that the lifestyle she'd become used to was one I should maintain for her, even without the marriage. Her attorney pushed for spousal support, demanded a larger split of the assets, and painted her as a woman who gave up her ambitions for the sake of our family. But the worst part, she tried to fight for primary custody, told the judge the girls needed their mother, that I worked too much, that I was emotionally distant, that my paranoia made the home unstable. Her team tried to paint a softer narrative. She was a mother trying to find herself, a woman abandoned emotionally, a marriage that fizzled before it fractured. My team had receipts, digital logs, transfers, photos, dates that didn't match, locations that proved otherwise. And I wasn't trying to bury her, just protect what really mattered to me. The girls. I didn't like what was being said. And I wasn't about to sit quietly and let that narrative take root. So I showed that Liana's counselor submitted a statement, said she'd shown signs of emotional distress, that she'd confided in a session how mommy's never home when we need her, that she felt safest when she was with me. Aria's teacher echoed the same in her report, mentioned her dropping grades, her sudden silence in class, and the time she stayed behind after school just to ask if I was okay. The teacher said, "It's rare to see a child so protective of a parent." And then the girls gave their own statements, quietly, without me in the room. When the transcripts were read in chambers, even the opposing counsel sat still. They said it clearly, confidently. They wanted to live with me. They still loved their mother. But they didn't trust her the same way anymore. They'd seen too much, heard too much, and they were tired of pretending. Bella's posture started to crumble. She looked stunned, as if the kids choosing me was some kind of betrayal. She dabbed her tears with a tissue her lawyer handed her. But it wasn't grief. It was disbelief. Because somewhere deep down, I think she still believed I was just the phase between her and whatever freedom she was chasing. The judge didn't make the ruling that day, but we knew where it was heading. So did she. Because the truth, she'd already lost them the moment she stopped coming home. Before the court dates and late-night strategy sessions, I was already looking for a new place. Not far, still in the same school district, close enough for the girls to keep their routines, still near their favorite park, the corner ice cream shop, and Stella's place. I didn't want to uproot them, just give them something that felt fresh, spacious, peaceful, ours. The first few houses didn't click. One felt too sterile, another too dark, other two felt too cramped. The fifth had a weird layout that made everything feel disconnected. I didn't need perfection. I just needed something that didn't feel like hiding from the past, something that felt comfortable. Then I found it. A quiet street, a wraparound porch, wide windows that let the morning light pour straight into the kitchen, the kind of place where silence wouldn't feel heavy, just calm. It wasn't available yet, still needed some paperwork cleared, but the timing lined up. By the time the ink dried on the divorce, it would be ready. I didn't mention it to the girls yet. I wanted to be sure, but I could already see it. Liana sketching at the breakfast table, Aria curled up in the reading nook near the front window. Maybe even a dog or cat someday and lots of plants. It was a house that didn't carry old weight, but couldn't hurt to update a little to make it our home. As we moved further into the proceedings, the final phase was money. Bella's attorney pushed hard. "She gave up her momentum to raise your family," he said. "She was supporting the household in non-financial ways. She deserves to maintain her standard of living." Bella sat beside him in her tailored blazer and quiet rage, dabbing her eyes like the cameras were rolling. I didn't interrupt. Not until my lawyer placed a stack of statements on the table. Bank logs, hidden transfers, personal purchases disguised as business expenses. She hadn't given anything up. She'd just rerouted it to herself. "She was siphoning money from joint accounts," my lawyer said calmly. "Not for the children, not for groceries, for herself as far as we know." Her attorney tried to object, claimed it was petty. "Emotional retribution," he called it. But the judge didn't flinch. Still, I offered transitional support, just enough to hold her over until the house sold. Not because she deserved it, but because I refused to let her paint this as some cruel abandonment. I wasn't leaving her with nothing. but I was done giving her everything. Outside the courtroom, life began to stretch into new rhythms. Stella had a way of showing up without making a scene. She'd drop by with coffee when she knew I hadn't slept, sit with the girls while I buried myself in paperwork, text just enough to remind me I wasn't carrying it all alone. There were moments, like the night she stayed late helping Aria with her essay. Liana had fallen asleep on the couch, and when I offered her a blanket, our hands brushed. We both paused, said nothing, but we noticed. She didn't press. She never crossed lines. And after everything I'd been through, that mattered more than any grand gesture. We weren't just old friends anymore, but something more. One Friday night, after the girls had gone to bed, Stella stayed behind. We were halfway through an old comedy we used to quote in high school, something ridiculous with over-the-top characters and cheesy punchlines, the kind of movie we both pretended to hate but secretly loved. We sat side by side on the couch, sharing a bowl of popcorn too salty and a blanket too small. Somewhere between the third laugh and second glass of wine, a line hit us both just right, and we cracked up. Hard. She nudged me. I nudged back. Stupid, playful, easy. And then the laughter quieted. And we kissed. Software surprising, but natural. It wasn't desperate. It wasn't confusing. It just fit. When the movie ended, neither of us moved. She leaned into my chest. I let my arm wrap around her without thinking. The room was dark, save for the glow of the credits rolling, and our breathing synced without effort. We fell asleep like that. No tension, no rush, just warmth and quiet, and the strange comfort of realizing that maybe, after all the chaos, this was what safe felt like. The day the divorce was finalized didn't feel victorious. It just felt quiet. Not a regular quiet, but something comforting. Weightlifting. I didn't feel the anger or betrayal anymore. I felt like my life was finally moving toward where it was supposed to go, like I was on the right path. And that feeling? It was reassuring. Steady. Something I hadn't felt before. The courtroom was silent. No screaming, no outbursts. Like everything was in slow motion for me to take it all in. A room with the judge, a clerk, and the remains of what used to be a life with someone I thought I'd grow old with. When it was done, papers signed, names read aloud one last time, we stood outside the courthouse steps, waiting for our respective rides. Just the two of us, again. But not really. Bella stood a few feet away, arms crossed, still wearing the same stubborn confidence she'd carried through the entire process. But beneath it, I saw something different now. Something cracked. She walked over. "So that's it?" she asked quietly. "After everything?" I nodded. "That's it." She looked away for a second. Swallowed. "I never thought we'd actually get here." "I didn't either," I said. "But you made your choice. I just followed where it led." Her eyes flickered. For once, she didn't have a comeback. "I wasn't always a monster, you know," she said, voice softening. "No," I said. "You weren't." A long pause passed between us. "I loved you," she added, almost as if saying it to herself. I didn't flinch. "I believe that once." She looked like she wanted to say more. Maybe something to rewrite the moment. But she didn't. Just nodded. "Goodbye, Darius. Take care of yourself, Bella." And that was it. She walked one way, I walked the other, and for the first time since everything fell apart, I didn't look back. A day or two after the divorce was finalized, I went back to the house. The one with the wraparound porch and sunlight that cut through the kitchen like it belonged there. This time, I wasn't just scouting it, I was signing for it. The paperwork cleared with no issues. The sellers were eager. My realtor, Susan, walked me through the last of the formalities and handed me the keys with a knowing look. "No going back now," she said. I gave a small smile. I'm not trying to. It wasn't a celebration, just a moment of quiet assurance. I didn't move in right away. It wasn't ready yet, not emotionally. I wanted the girls to have closure, to say goodbye to what used to be their home on their own terms. I spent the next 2 months preparing everything in the background, coordinating movers, setting up utilities, making sure the rooms were painted the way Arya and Lyanna wanted them. The place needed to be more than livable. It needed to feel like theirs. 2 months passed like clockwork. On a cool Saturday morning, the truck pulled up to the curb, and it finally happened. The three of us stepped inside the new house, boxes trailing behind, sunlight cutting across the living room floor, that fresh paint smell still clinging to the corners. Lyanna picked her room first. She chose the one that faced the backyard with the old tree she'd already claimed for a swing. Arya followed, choosing the room near mine, but made it clear she wanted privacy privileges. I laughed. Fair enough. We spent the whole afternoon unpacking, sorting, and setting the basics in place. They were excited, buzzing with nervous energy, dancing between rooms, trying to make their space feel like them. By early evening, the beds were made, curtains hung, and the kitchen was full of mismatched plates and laughter. I went all out for dinner by making tacos and nacho chips lathered in ground beef and cheese. Nothing fancy, just something to make with my girls in our first night in our new home. The girls devoured them like they hadn't eaten in days. Later that night, after they were settled in bed, I walked out to the porch to catch my breath. That's when Stella pulled up. She stepped out of her car with a bottle of wine and a bag of chips. I can't even think of chips after those Doritos, I said, chuckling. Stella laughed. Hope you saved some for me. Of course, I set some on the side for you. It's not my best work, but it gets the job done, I replied. Figured you would want a break at the very least, she said. I didn't argue. We sat in the kitchen sipping wine from our mismatched mugs as Stella was eating her dinner I left for her. She asked how the girls were adjusting. I told her they were thriving already. She smiled at that, leaning back against the wood. It feels good here, she said. I nodded. It does. I could hear faint music coming from Lyanna's room. Arya was humming something down the hall. There was no tension in the air, no eggshells on the floor. It just felt peaceful and lively, and I didn't need much more than that. A few nights after the move, once the dust had settled and the house finally felt like home, I found myself standing in the kitchen wiping down the counters. The girls were already asleep. The hum of the dishwasher was the only thing filling the silence. That's when there was a knock at the back door. It was Stella. She just showed up and I never minded it. She didn't need to ask to come over. She brought 2 to-go mugs from our favorite late-night cafe and a soft smile like she knew I could use the company. I figured you might be cleaning again, she said. You always clean when you're restless. I opened the door and let her in. You're not wrong. We sat in the dining room, not touching our drinks for a while, just talking. About the move, the girls. Then she looked at me, really looked, and asked the question that had been sitting between us for weeks. Are you really ready? I didn't rush to answer. I thought about Bella, about everything that had unraveled, about how my girls slept down the hall now without tension in the walls, about how I didn't feel hollow when I heard laughter anymore. I don't know if anyone's ever really ready, I said, but I'm open, and I'm not holding on to her anymore. That door's closed. She nodded, slowly. That's all I needed to hear. Then Stella stood up, slowly, like a decision had just settled in her chest, and walked over to me. She reached for my hand, gentle but sure, and guided me back in my chair. Without a word, she sat on my lap, eyes locked with mine. One hand came up to my face, her fingertips tracing along my jaw like she was memorizing something she'd already known by heart. She didn't rush. There was no pressure, no expectation, just a moment so smooth, so quietly certain, it felt inevitable. Then she leaned in, closer, slower, and kissed me. Softly, then deeper, then still again. When she finally pulled back, her forehead resting against mine, she whispered, "You don't know how long I've been waiting to do that. I've always imagined it. But actually doing it, it exceeds every expectation." We just sat there, me holding on to her for a while that night. But later that weekend, I asked her to dinner. Just us. No takeout, no porch swing, no distractions. She wore a soft green dress I'd never seen her in before. I picked her up like it was our first time. Nervous smile, heart racing, palms a little too warm. We went to a quiet spot outside of town. An old, converted train station turned into a restaurant with live jazz and dim lights. Dinner felt effortless. We talked about everything and nothing. Our childhoods, the first time we rode bikes without training wheels, how her mom used to make the worst meatloaf, but Stella would choke it down anyway out of guilt. We laughed about a neighborhood water balloon fight from a summer long gone, one she swore she won, though I remembered it very differently. She teased me for my dad music taste. I told her she still watched cartoons disguised as anime. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't magic. It was easy. It was real. And that was all I really needed. We didn't talk about Bella. Not once. Not because we were ignoring the past, but because it didn't belong in that moment. And somewhere between the second glass of wine and dessert, I looked at her and wondered how the hell I didn't see it before. How I missed the one person who'd always understood me without needing me to perform. Who showed up, stayed close, and never asked for anything except honesty. How did I spend so long chasing peace in chaos, when it had been right beside me all along? And when we got back to the house, she leaned in at the door and whispered, "This felt like home too." Then she kissed me. And this time I kissed her back without hesitation, not out of confusion, not out of loneliness, but because I meant it. And she did too. I opened the door. She stepped inside, and for the first time in years, the night didn't feel heavy. It felt like a new beginning. Life didn't go back to how it was. It became something entirely new and better. The girls were thriving in school. Aria had her art sketchbook in her backpack at all times, constantly designing things or scribbling story ideas. Liana had gotten into leadership club and was on track to run for student council next year. Their teachers described them as focused, grounded, and kind. They still had questions sometimes, but they didn't carry the weight anymore. They laughed more now, slept better, smiled without hesitation. I found my rhythm too, balancing fatherhood, work, and something I never thought I'd feel again: excitement for the future. Stella and I are getting married in a few months, and she's pregnant with our son. It's been a wild ride trying to agree on a name. I like Xavier, strong, timeless, but she keeps joking that she's naming him Itachi, after her favorite character from Naruto. We go back and forth about it, half serious, half laughing, but somehow I think she's gonna win. The girls? They always loved Stella. They used to call her their second mom, even before all this happened. But now, they just call her mom, and not once have they been corrected. That bond, theirs, ours, it wasn't forced or manufactured. It was built over years of showing up, listening, and loving without asking for anything in return. One afternoon, I got a message from Bella. "Can we talk? I've been thinking a lot lately." I didn't answer right away. I let it sit. Then finally I responded, "I hope you find what you're looking for, but I've moved on, and I don't live in that place anymore." She didn't reply again that night, but she did the next day. "I promise I won't take much of your time." I brought it up to Stella first, told her everything. She just nodded, calm and steady. If it helps her close that door for good, do it. So I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe halfway between where she lived and the new house, a place we had gone together a few times in the past. She looked slimmer but still beautiful. but more tired than I remembered. Not in a harsh way, just exhausted. Life had finally caught up to the version of her that thought she could outrun accountability, it seemed. She smiled, almost sheepishly. "I didn't know if you'd come," she said. "I almost didn't." A beat of silence passed. Then she asked, "How are you?" I gave her the truth, not the version I used to hand her out of habit. "I'm good, focused. The girls are doing well. They love the new place." She looked down at her coffee. "They don't really talk to me about it, about the house, or much at all, really." "That's between you and them," I said. "I'm not keeping them from you." "I know," she said quickly. "I know you're not." Another pause. She shifted in her seat. "I've been trying to reset. I thought some space would help me figure things out, but everything's just kind of stalled." I stayed quiet. I thought maybe, after everything, we might have something left. I mean, we were together a long time. That has to mean something, right? I looked at her, really looked at her. "It meant something," I said, "but not enough to survive what you did." She blinked. Tears threatened, but never fell. "I'm not asking you to take me back," she said, though her eyes told a different story. "I just thought maybe we could, I don't know, start something new, rebuild." I shook my head gently. "I've already started something new, with someone who never treated me like a backup plan." She swallowed hard. "Stella?" "Yes." She nodded slowly. "You always did look at her different." I didn't respond, because she was right, and I didn't need to deny it. She let out a breath, looking down at her half-finished drink. "I never saw Stella as a threat," she said quietly. "You two never crossed a line before. You've known each other forever, so I guess I just didn't expect it. Didn't see that coming." I nodded once. "Neither did I. But sometimes the people who've seen you the longest are the ones who truly see you." She looked at me again. There wasn't anger in her face this time, just a kind of hollow resignation. "I hope they're happy," she said. "The girls. I mean, they are," I replied, "and I am too." That was it. No long goodbyes, just a quiet understanding. I never cut Bella out of my life. I couldn't. She's the mother of my daughters, and there'll always be a part of me that cares. But from that day on, we simply walked separate paths. They say betrayal teaches you more about love than affection ever could. And I believe that now, because I've felt both. I've stood in the ruins of something I once called home, trying to make sense of why it all burned. And I've stood in the warmth of something new, something real, built slow, built honest, and realized not all beginnings are born from sunshine. Some come from the ashes. Bella wasn't my downfall. She was my wake-up call, the storm that forced me to rebuild, brick by painful brick. And I'm grateful, not for the lies, not for the sleepless nights, but for what came after. My daughters are thriving. Stella, she's not just my partner, she's my peace. We've got a baby boy on the way. A whole new chapter being written from a place I never thought I'd reach again. But more than anything, I came back to myself. If you're listening to this, maybe you're in your own storm. Maybe the lies just hit the fan. Or maybe you're just quietly breaking behind closed doors, wondering if anyone will ever see how much you're holding together. Let me say this. You are not weak for staying calm. You are not dramatic for feeling broken. And you are not unlovable just because someone else couldn't recognize your worth. Protect what you find important. Fight for your sanity. Choose boundaries over chaos, even if it means starting over. Because silence, it isn't weakness. Sometimes silence is strategy. And when the dust finally settles, that silence becomes something else entirely. Peace. Real, lasting, earned peace. And that That's worth everything.